Costa Mesa police arrived first, followed by the Orange County sheriffs. The young police officers went about their work with an air of confidence far beyond their experience, which is part of their training. They began by interviewing briefly the two witnesses closest to Rebecca Harris when the first shot rang out. Then they tried to seal off the crime scene. Wearing clear slickers to repel the rain, they dragged yellow and black folding sawhorses from the trunks of their patrol cars and began stringing up the yellow crime scene "Do Not Enter" tape. But this procedure went inexactly. Because the reporters and photogs had so long endured the rigid protocols of police investigations while on assignment, they felt that this event, in their own parking lot, entitled them to do pretty much what they pleased. So they did. The television side of the Journal operation used Rebecca's body, draped with a blanket, as a backdrop for their live on-scene coverage. Photographers meandered within the taped perimeters, setting up lights and reflectors, snapping away. A dispute broke out regarding the best angles. Reporters took notes or spoke into tape recorders. Editors loitered, and the copy desk people rubbed their eyes. The young police officers were ignored. It was full access. Through this rain-soaked tableau marched the Journal's most celebrated columnist, a tallish and solid woman named Susan Baum. She limped slightly, which gave her a kind of embattled dignity. She was wrapped in a tan Burberry, with collars turned up around a hot violet scarf. From beneath her hat bobbed sand-colored curls of hair that framed a square face, deep green eyes, furiously thick brows, and a mouth set in a perpetual frown. Behind her trailed the Journal publisher, who was apparently too flabbergasted by what had happened to even put on a coat. His white shirt, sleeves still rolled to his elbows, clung to his body like old skin. Next to him was the head of plant security, and beside him the executive editor. They approached Rebecca near the raised brick planter. "Ma'am," said one of the officers, "please remain behind the tape." "Shut up, you fool," said Susan Baum, freezing him with a look of such hostility that the officer actually nodded and backed off. Susan Baum barged past the TV crew, ruining the intro segment. The attractive on-air reporter, Ensley Moffat, shook her head, ducked under an assistant's umbrella, and watched Susan with an air of respectful resignation. Baum stood some 10 feet away from Rebecca and looked down at the body. First she put her hands on her hips and leaned slightly forward, like someone measuring the depth of a hole. Then she stuffed her hands into the Burberry's side pockets and brought out a small notepad. She scribbled something. She gazed past the planter toward the massive Journal building, her eyes settling on the young man in the felt hat and leather coat, soaked all the way past the knees. She hadn't even known he was there, just 30 feet away, stuck in the rain like a post. The Sporting Life writer, she thought. John? Jim? Mike? She turned to her publisher and spoke in a quiet voice. "I asked Rebecca to bring my car so I wouldn't have to go out in the storm. This was clearly intended for me." She nodded to the new Lincoln Town car the Journal supplied for her as a sign of her high status. It sat just to the right of the planter, behind a little sign that said simply, "Baum." There was a small round hole near the top of the driver's side window, surrounded by an opaque aura of shatters and a spray of what could only be Rebecca Harris's blood. A bulky key-chain dangled from the door-lock. With this, 2 large tears ran down her unquivering cheeks, and Susan Baum took one last look at her part-time assistant lying beside the planter. Then the columnist walked toward the TV crew, accurately assuming that they would want to interview her, limping due to chronically bad circulation in her left foot, which today was aggravated by the cold, wet weather. Within an hour, the local police had assembled some apparent facts, scant as they were. Rebecca Harris was shot at least twice, once in the back as she unlocked the door of Susan Baum's town car, and once in the chest. The latter could have happened either as she turned when